Welcome to the Undue Dilemma minisodes, where we unpack the real stuff people are facing at work and in life.
The weird, the wonderful, and the way too familiar.
Each week, we pick one listener dilemma and try to make sense of it with care, curiosity, and no corporate nonsense. Let's get into it. Okie dokie, dilemma time. Subject line is this. I swore I'd never be like my old bosses, but now I'm not so sure.
Oh, the victim has become the perpetrator.
Listen. Hey both, big fan of the podcast. My daughter actually introduced me to it. She was going through burnout a while ago and said the episode on breaking the cycle really helped her. I'm happy to hear it. I've been listening ever since, and there was one episode where you guys said something about leaders needing to model behaviour they want to see. I think he's referring to when I crashed out about bad managers in season 1.
I think we crashed out.
I think we might have done. Oh, yeah, I think so. So he says, it properly called me out in a good way.
Oh!
And that's why I'm writing in. Okay. So
points for self-awareness.
Yes. So I'm 48. I've worked in the civil service for over 20 years, and I'm currently head of procurement. I manage a solid-sized team, and for most of my career, I've prided myself on being one of the good bosses. Supportive, fair, clear, not the shouty, toxic kind. But lately, I've been second-guessing myself. Some of my younger team members who are bright, thoughtful, and have lots of promise are just really hard to pin down. There's lots of silence, deadlines slip. I ask for one thing and I get another. I've tried being kind. I've tried being direct. I've even done the whole, I just want to support you to do your best work speech. But honestly, I'm getting tired. And I can feel this voice in the back of my head, the old school one, saying, just lay down the law. You're the boss. Now act like it. The thing is, I had those bosses early on, the ones who led with fear, who burnt everyone out and called it grit. And I swore I'd never be like that. But I'm starting to wonder, how do you hold people accountable without turning into that guy? Is it me? Am I too soft? Or have expectations genuinely shifted? I don't want to give up on being the kind of boss I believe in, but I also don't want to feel like a mug. How do I lead with integrity when everything around me feels a bit fuzzy? Cheers, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. I have thoughts.
Okay, go for it.
Your first mistake is referring to yourself as boss. You're not a boss, especially not in the civil service. Just FYI.
I'm just gonna sip my tea.
So, as someone, and this is, first of all, thank you for writing in, because this already shows a very high amount of self-awareness. But calling yourself a boss is one of the problems you're already having. You are a manager. You are a manager, not a boss. You are not responsible. You don't pay their salaries. You may have been part of the hiring process, but you are not. You're not. See, the word boss has connotations of kind of controlling leadership, right? You answer to me. No, they answer to Her Majesty the Queen.
I mean, she's dead.
Well, they heard to His Majesty the King, and and the minister. That's ultimately who every civil servant answers to, the minister and the permanent secretary. So, just taking a step back and seeing yourself as part of that team rather than the boss that the team reports to will help kind of alleviate some of that pressure you feel to lay down the law, right? You're not a judge. You're not like just those kind of combative or very kind of restrictive titles don't help you. You are a manager. So if you're a manager, what is your job? To manage, right? And so think of it as, instead of these, having to lay down the law, you are presented with a scenario in which you have to manage. So you have the scenario where people are not communicating, they're not sharing, they're missing deadlines, the quality of work is slipping. That is the issue. It's not it's not so much the people as much as is the situation you find yourself in, right? Because you've just said they're bright, they're brilliant, they're full of potential. So you know that as people, they've got what it takes to do it. So there's a gap between the people that you believe that they are, and the expectations that are being set. Think of it that way, and think of it as a problem-solving exercise that will need collective solutionizing. It's not just all on you, right? So part of managing is actually knowing how to involve. You don't want to like pull people over the finish line. You want to empower people so that they skip over the finish line themselves. That's your job, right? So thinking about how to speak to these people in a way that separates them from the issue. So don't make the issue them. The issue is the issue. A deadline has been missed. Having a lessons learned meeting. Okay, here's the issue. This deadline was missed. How can we do better? What can we do better? What went wrong? What was it? Do you see, like, separating the people from the problem, I think is your first. I mean, your first thing is not calling yourself boss, but secondly is separating the people from the problem and involving them in the problem-solving exercise rather than taking it all on your own shoulders. And also maybe a bit of training. You know, do you have a mentor? Is there someone you can speak to about this that's, you know, either your counterpart or higher than you that you can actually get support from? Because I feel like you also need support. It's not just about you supporting your team, but you yourself, where can you get support from? But that's just kind of my immediate thoughts. The boss thing triggered me, sorry.
Okay, so Peter, now that you've been cut down to size,
sorry,
I'm going to try and build you back up again. So no, I actually agree with you completely. I think I'm sorry, I have flashbacks from my. There's nothing to be sorry about, because I actually do think that this really does happen a lot, right? Civil service and in other places, people are managers, senior leaders, etc., and put this pressure on themselves that they're now the boss. Listen, those people you're talking about can get fired, but so can you, right? So don't take Panadol for someone else's headache. You can only do what you can do.
Yes.
And you have to try and release and relieve some of that pressure. And the first one is to remember, I am a cog in this machine. I have responsibilities, and some of it is outside of my remit, and that's okay. But it's not my responsibility. You are not signing their checks. The money that you're getting paid has all come from the same damn place, and it's not your bank account. So just try and hopefully that just takes a bit of the pressure that you put on yourself off, okay? So that you can free up some capacity, some bandwidth to actually look at the problem at hand. And there's a couple of things here that I think are happening. One is that there is a very real shift in the approach to work that's generational, right? So you're probably working with young millennials, you're probably starting to work with Gen Z. They do have a very different approach to work that older generations have, because that's just life, right? Things change, people change, they want more and different things out of the working environment. So it does behoove you as a manager of these people to understand them a bit better. However, I'm getting the feeling that you're trying to be, kind and empathetic and everything, but you must balance that with clarity. You also have to balance that with consequences. If you're saying things like, you ask for one thing and you get another, deadlines are slipping, etc., they can't just do that unendingly, right? There is a consequence to it, which ends with losing their job. Okay, that is still, like, as much as people's thoughts and feelings about work are different, you have still been employed to do a job, and you need to get that job done, or we need to find someone else who can do that job, right? And for you to help them get that job done, you need to understand them. You understand how they work well and how to get the best out of them. You have to be absolutely clear as to what you're expecting, and make sure that the things you're expecting are reasonable and within their ability to do it. If not, that they have the support to meet the task that you're giving them and the stretch goals that you're giving them, okay? And then give them the space, because you're not trying to micromanage, to get it done. Allow for creativity if maybe they're taking a different approach to it, but it gets to the right place at the end. Fantastic. They've done something new and you've learned something new. All right. So there are lots of different things that we need to think about in this situation. But there are real consequences. So you, as the manager, have to make that really clear. There's a lot you have to think about. You have to understand your people. You have to be clear about what the task is. And you also have to be clear about what the consequences are for that task not being done. Okay? It's simple, but there's a lot to get done in your job, and that's your job. right? You said you used to have bad bosses. That's great. They're probably dead. So don't worry about them. Okay? You know what you didn't like. And I suspect it wasn't just how they spoke. It was probably something a little bit deeper. It's probably that you felt minimized and ignored. It was probably that you felt like your opinion didn't matter. Like, really get under the skin of what you didn't like about how your old bosses treated you, and inspect whether you're doing that. So you might not be talking the way they did, but you still might be making people feel the way you felt. Right? So just try and unpack that from your own experience and relay it to what might be happening now. You also mentioned at the beginning there, your daughter was the one who introduced you to this podcast. Talk to her. Chances are she's that generation. She's going to be a fount of knowledge for you as to in a working environment. And, she's had the difficult thing of being burnt out and stuff. Yeah. Maybe she's had tough managers. Talk to her, confide in her. That's a fantastic resource that you've got. You've probably got a daughter in her 20s or something. She's going to be able to tell you a lot about how her peers think and feel, how they approach work. And you can talk about what you've tried, and she can probably help you problem solve quite a bit more, perhaps even more than we can, because we are old. Okay, honey? We're closer in age to you than we are to them, all right?
Yep.
So I'm really hoping that's all I've got for you. I think, well, that's not all I've got. There is one more thing, because I hope you don't feel like we've just come at you. You are already doing a good job because you give a shit.
Yes, absolutely.
Most people in your kind of work, most people of your age, not to be ageist, but they don't do this. They don't think about the effect they're having on the people that work under them. They don't consider how to avoid treating people the way they've been treated poorly in the past. It doesn't even cross their mind. And they have an untold negative effect on people left, right and centre. I can promise you that you're not doing that because you actually have enough self-awareness to care, and even more to write in and try and get some help and advice. Yes. So please take the pressure off yourself.
That's the main thing.
Remember that this is you just need to manage these folks, and there's kind of a clear beginning, middle and end to your remit when it concerns them. Get some advice from someone in that age, talk to them too, and just remember it's just a job. All right?
Oh yes,
it's just a job.
It's just a job. It's not your life.
It's not your life. You're a good boss. You're a good manager. You're not a boss, Peter. You're not a boss. Okay? You're a great manager, and continue to be a great manager. Continue with this level of self-awareness. You will work it out. You will. Yes. Well done, you. Let us know how you get on. And wishing you the absolute best of luck.
Take care.
Bye, Peter. Thanks for listening to this week's Undue Dilemma. If you've got something sticky, awkward, or just plain weird happening at work or in life, send it to us at dilemma@thisdoesworkwell.com. You stay anonymous, we talk it out.
And if this helped, pass it on to someone who might need it too.
And don't forget, new full-length episodes of Undue land on Mondays. So wherever you are in the week, we've got you.